Hello and welcome to our second training session for contractors and those who will be accessing CDOT's Dialog system for managing customer service inquiries through the partner community. The second session is all about how to manage cases. So last time we talked about logging in and basic navigation and terminology. This time we're going to talk about how to manage the case records, which are the primary records that we work with in Dialog. And then we will finish up with two more sessions. One is about sending email and collaborating with others through Dialog, and then finally a very short one about managing major event type cases. So let's move forward. So the first topic that we're going to cover in this session is called finding cases. And we reviewed this a little bit in the first session, so this should be fairly straightforward. When we go into Dialog this time, we're going to select cases from our upper left tab. So that's where we first start logging in. We have a series of tabs, and one of them is called cases. From there, we'll look at a series of list views. We'll talk about what those list views are and define them for you. And then we'll look at the view that we think you'll frequently use, such as the all open cases list view. I will show you how you can, within those list views, sort and rearrange columns, and then also how to display cases from that list view. Then when we come back, we'll talk about how to create cases. So let's just go back into Dialog. So remember, when we started our session last time, we logged into Dialog and it took us to this page. And you'll see that we have four tabs. We have the Cases tab, we have the Chatter tab that we'll use for collaboration. We have the Projects tab, where you can look at a record that is containing information about each of the projects that your organization manages. And then we have a Reports tab, which as we begin to use Dialog will become more interesting as we're able to analyze the types of inquiries that we're seeing throughout Dialog and throughout the state. But when we first start out on the Cases tab, you'll see that there's a little drop-down list right beneath the tab that's called, we refer to this as list views. And so when you drop down that group of list views, you'll see all open cases, you'll see major events, you'll see my closed cases, my open cases, and project cases. You also have one that's called recently view cases. So let's just talk briefly about these. So all open cases means any case that you can see or is associated with your project, or it could be a case that has been shared with you by somebody else at CDOT, such as a customer service representative or a communications manager. So it means that the case needs to still be in an open status, nothing that's been completed, and either you are the designated owner of the case or your project is associated with the case, or it's something that has been shared with you. Major events are major event cases. We're actually going to talk about these in the fourth session, but these cases are really simply major events such as a blizzard, or maybe it's an event like a race or something that is going to interfere with the traffic flow. It could be a rock slide, something that generates a high volume of calls for CDOT in Dialog. And so rather than creating different cases for every single one of these major events, what we have is a type of case that is created once by one of the communication managers. And then as you may receive calls about a major event, you can just log calls against those major events. So that allows us to count the call volume without having to go forth and create new cases for every single call that comes in. My closed cases are any of the cases that you have owned. So if you create a case, you're by default the owner of a case. And if you accept a case from a queue, let's just say that you get this from a list of your open project cases and you accept it so you become the owner. Anytime that you have closed one, it will go into this view. So this view will show you anything that is a case that has been closed in the past for which you are the owner. Conversely then, my open cases is any case for which you are the owner. Again, if you create the case by default, you're the owner. And if you accept one from a list, you are also the owner of a case. So anything that is in an open status, so has not yet been completed, it's still pending, will go here. Next one, it would be project cases. So that would be all of the cases that are associated with one of your projects. and you as a contractor will be able to see only those projects that are associated with your contractor account. And then finally, we have the default recently viewed cases. And Dialog will remember in order the cases, the last cases that you've worked on. So if you click on recently viewed cases, the one that was most recently viewed or displayed will be at the top, and everything else will fall below and in the order that you viewed them. So sometimes kind of a handy way to go back and find things that you had been working on before. So that's a quick definition of the different views that you use. I would say that for most projects, you guys are probably going to look at all open cases because those are going to be the ones that are somehow requiring your attention or something that you should be alerted of. So this is a great way to find cases. Another way that you can find cases is if you already know the case number, like in this case it's 2148, or if you know maybe some keywords in the subject line, you can just use this search box. So you could just put in case number 2148 and Dialog would return that. Let's go ahead and do that. So I can search for that, and lo and behold, here's case number 2148. So if you have a long list of cases over time and you're having a hard time finding it, you can simply put in the case number. Or if you were sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, it had something to do with cones, let me search and see if I can find it in the subject line. So I can search with keywords as well. So anytime that I'm in a search result, if I want to display the case, I can click on the case number or the subject. Both will take me to the same spot. But let's go back to the case tab because that's kind of where we've started our navigation, and that's a familiar spot. So now that I've clicked here, I do have recently viewed cases. Here's my cones. And if I go to my all open cases, you'll see that there's a go button. So I'll click go, and that will take me to my all open cases. And the one that I have that is still open is this one, which is cones all over the place. Okay, so that is finding cases. Now let's take a quick look at some of the other things that we want to do here. So the next one, just real quickly, those list view definitions again are here on screen. So all cases are all cases with an open status for which you are designated as the owner of the case or those that have been shared with you by another. And just as a reminder, to become the owner of a case, you're either going to be the person who creates it, which will most often be the case, or somebody could have transferred ownership to you as an individual. So that is, or you could accept it from a list. My cases list all cases, again, with an open status, so they're still pending, for which you are designated as the owner. Project cases then list all cases, open or closed, that have been associated with the projects for which your organization is responsible. So this is a good list for all of the cases that are associated with your organization's projects that you're managing as a contractor. And then finally, you have my closed cases. So if you're ever looking for something that has previously been closed, completed, maybe it's something that needs to be reopened, you can go into the my closed cases. Again, those are cases that have been closed for which you are designated as the owner. So let's talk about creating new cases. So I think most often our calls come in from our Colorado drivers and our constituents, and they call in and report some sort of an issue, or maybe they have a question, but they have an inquiry of some sort. And so when the call comes in, we're going to create a new case. So for you, you guys will create a new project case. And when you get there, you'll associate either a new or an existing contact. So I'll show you how to do that. We'll just take a quick run through the fields and the definitions. We'll talk about how to save and edit records if you need to make changes to it after the case is already created. You will be able to look at the different structure of the case detail, and also the related list. So if you want to look at some case history, and then we'll look at the different case tabs, like answering the customer or commenting, adding case comments, and how to close a case. So we'll take a look at all of those. So let's go back into Dialog, and let's create a new case. So to create a new case, I am going to click New Case. It's the one right here on the left button. On this screen, you may see a few other buttons, but those will likely be removed. So just stick with the New Case here on the left. When you select a new case, you're going to want to choose a specific type. So customer service cases are used by CSRs or customer service representatives. Major events, again, are a large event like a snowstorm or a blizzard or a rock slide or a race or some sort of sporting event that's interrupting the flow of traffic. Those are major events that everybody can use. And then for you, because you are a contractor, you are using the project case because it is a case that's identified or related to one of your projects. Keep in mind that while you might be creating a case when people call in, sometimes the cases are already created for you because soon Dialog will be active from the Contact Us page of CDOT, and the driving community will be able to submit Contact Us cases as well as even use their mobile device. So it could be that they could create their own cases and they get routed to one of your queues. So it's important to click on the case tab and monitor your queues just in case they have been created through a self-service. So let's continue with our project case. And this is the new case form. It's pretty self-explanatory. You'll notice that I have a submit, I have a save and close, I have a submit and add attachment. I can save and create a new case if I have multiple cases happening. But let's go ahead and start by putting in a contact name. So let's just say that you have a contact that has called before, or maybe, and you want to just check first to see if this contact is here. So let's check to see if we have a contact named Trisha Bennett. So what you'll do is you'll type the first name or last name. You can also just type the last name if you want. And then you'll look at this magnifying glass. Looks like a little magnifying glass. That's called a lookup in Dialog. So you can click on the the magnifying glass. And you can see that there might be somebody who has a name. There might be somebody who's already here, or perhaps this is not the same person. But anybody who matches your search results will show up here. But you also have the option, if the person does not show up, then you can choose new. So let's just do that. So let's say that I'm going to choose new because that was a different Trisha. We'll call this one maybe Trisha Benson. That's a good one. And I just automatically pre-populated this. However, you could potentially create or add as much information as possible for this person. Now, if you're not really interested in capturing a whole lot of information about the caller because this is maybe somebody who's just driving by mentioning something, they're not requiring follow-up, that's okay, but do try to get their first and last name. Last name is the minimum. And then also you might want to get an email address and a phone number if possible. You can see down here, and you can just fill in all of these different fields. If you don't get one, it's very likely that we will have an anonymous person or anonymous contact, so you can type in anonymous because sometimes you'll have somebody who just calls in, explains something, and you really don't have a whole lot to go on. After you've completed these different fields, you're going to go ahead and scroll down to the bottom of the list. It's important to note this one and choose Save. And once you've chosen Save, you've not only created the new contact name. See, I just wrote Trisha Benson here. So you've created a new contact record and you've associated it to the case all at once. So you can either search for, using this magnifying glass, you can either search for an existing contact or you can create a new one. If the caller would like to have, or the inquiring person would like to have a response, then you're going to identify this one. Do they want a response? Let's say the answer to this is no. But if they did want one, then you might also indicate a preferred method of contact. So how would you like it if we did need to call you back and ask you some additional questions? How could you be reached? Would you prefer for us to reach you by phone or mail? Let's say this person said phone. And let's just say that this is a high priority case because it's involving construction debris on the Highway 36 express lanes. So, but the constituent doesn't need a follow-up, but see this follow-up with constituent button? What's nice about this is if your constituent did want to have some follow-up, you can click a checkbox here. And in the checkbox, in 72 hours, you're going to get an email And that email will say, hey, did you remember to follow up with your constituent on this case? So it will give you an email reminder uh, that you need to do some follow up. That's just really kind of convenient for you. Scrolling on down, we have the case description section. We can talk about the date of the occurrence. You can either click in here, or oftentimes the caller is just calling it the time of the event. So you can just click on this underlined link and it will populate the date and time. This is the format that's required in this field, so you either want to click this and update it, or you can click in here and choose a date, and the date picker will populate this section. Then you'll talk about a case category. So let's just say that this one is going to be related to highway maintenance, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's construction or closers. It is construction. And let's just say that we have a safety concern because we have debris. Maybe the wind knocked it loose or something. And then something debris on Highway 36. Express toll lanes from wind. Caller reports debris on Highway 36. Express toll lanes appears to be construction related and dislodged by wind. So, and we'll say that this is Highway 36, westbound between Federal and Sheridan. And we're going to leave this as a new status at this point, but notice that you have some other statuses. So you can escalate, you can put things in progress. If you want to manage your cases based on their case status, maybe there's something that's on hold, you can. For this one, it's something that you might alert your team to and you might close fairly quickly. These other pieces, like the case resolution, you'll complete when we close the case, so we'll see that in a minute. Sometimes you're having a case that's related to another case, so you can look it up in a parent-child way. So you can look up a parent case if this is related to a larger express toll lane issue. In this case, it's not. If it's a legal issue, you want to check the box because that will alert CDOT as well. And also, if it's a confidential issue, potentially it's something that involves maybe an employee of your organization or of CDOT, and so you don't really want that to be widely available for people to view. The incident location, then you'll identify the region. So in this case, we'll choose region 1. Maybe. We'll see. Yes, because we're probably right around, it's kind of arguable right around there. It could be Jeffco. We'll go Jefferson County. It could be Adams County. So anyway, you can identify the county, and you can also identify the route if you want to, the area if you want to, and the patrol. If you know this information, so we already know that this is on Highway 36, and we've already included that. So it might just be fine for you to have had this here. So this is Highway 36 westbound, and then here you might have something between Federal and Sheridan. And just notice that what I'm doing is if I'm not sure what to put in here, I can mouse over these question marks and they might give me some information. So if there's a patrol number that I know CDOT uses that, you may not be aware of them. You can use those as well. And then contractor information is really all about you. So if you're adding this and you know that you have the Highway 36, well, let's see if it's 36. You can look up the project. And so let's look that up. I think we have the 36 Express Lanes project. So again, just use keywords to begin and then click the little magnifying glass, just like we did with the contact, and it will populate the project in the contractor information section. And then if you have somebody who is the responsible party, this is generally a CDOT user, or it could be somebody else who is a user. You can leave this blank for now because that is something that we'll be using within CDOT. However, it really has to do with the name of somebody who should be responsible for resolving this case. So if you're responsible, you're probably just fine by retaining just case ownership. We also have a section on the case that has to do with a work order. In some cases with CDOT customer service cases, there might be equipment that's damaged. Maybe it's a guardrail. Maybe it has to do with a traffic signal or some sort of a light pole or something. And sometimes that will require a work order. And so for internal CDOT use, if a work order is required for completing the case, they like to indicate that and also put in the work order number and notes and associate that with the case to close it before they close it, because sometimes it might take a little while, but you've satisfied the caller. So if you want to, you can send an email notification to the contact. Of course, that will only work if you have an email address associated with the contact. And that will just tell them thank you for your recent case and just acknowledge it. Okay, so let's just say that I'm going through here, and at the same time, I've been on the phone with folks, and they've already said, you know what, we have a truck on the scene, and we are cleaning up the debris, and you have spoken to people, and you could say thank you very much. You could just click save and close, and you could go into putting in your resolution comments, and you could complete that. Sometime you might have like an image or something that you want to add, so you could choose submit and add attachment, or you could just submit the case. And so when I choose submit, like I'm doing now, it saves it, and now I'm looking at a case. So I'm looking at the case details. See how this is highlighted white here, view case details. This is my subject, debris on Highway 36 express toll lanes from wind. The case number is 2272, I can see here. I can tell what time it was created, what date and time it was created. And then the subject line also shows up. So it's really easy at a glance to be able to see what the case looks like. So here's the case detail and all of the information that we just put in there. If I want to print it, I can click print. And that prints it to a PDF that you could also email if you needed to do so. I have the ability to close my case right from here. And if I wanted to make a change to the case, I could do it in one of two ways. I could either choose edit, which opens the whole thing back up again, in which case I would just choose submit again, which is really the same idea as saving. Or you also can note that on some of these fields there's a little pencil. And so you can just double click on the field and make a change here as well. So maybe I want to change this status to an in progress and see how it turns orange. When it turns orange, that means that I need to click save. So I'll choose save again to change that, but now I've just used the edit feature to change this case to in progress. All right, so I think that is all we needed to do to talk about how to create a case. On the very bottom, you'll see that there are some related lists. So if we sent email, or if we attached documents, or if we logged additional calls, or if we had associated other cases, you could see that all at the bottom. In the next section, we're going to talk about how you can answer customers and how you can write additional case notes, and we'll finish up that way. Let's go back and talk about how we're going to close cases. So the last piece then is that we're going to display the case detail just like we just did, and we're going to click the close case button. We're going to update our resolution comments, and then we're going to determine whether or not we need to follow up. So let's go back into Dialog and try that one more time. So let's say that it's been a little while and you have gotten distracted, you've had other phone calls, people are coming into the office, you have a busy day, and you just got a call back from the crew that's working on the 36 express lanes, and you want to go follow up on that case. So when you click on the case tab, you can either look at these recent cases, because this was the most recent one that I had, but remember you also might have your all open cases tab where you've got your outstanding cases. So I've got one, cones all over the place, and another one that is debris on Highway 36 express lanes. So I'm going to go ahead and just click it this time just to show you a different way. And here we're looking at our case again, and let's say that we have confirmed that all is well, it's all cleaned up, so we're going to close our case. So to do so, we want to make sure that we're viewing the View Case Details tab. Sometimes it's easy to, click on some of these other ones and you're not sure what you're looking at. And then we'll click Close Case. And from here, we're just going to choose a status of closed and the case resolution, um, debris cleared as of 8:35 a.m. Caller alerted, does not require follow-up. Now, if I want to, I can add additional comments. These little hashtags right here allow us to add additional comments if we want to. Sometimes things are a bit more complex than the example we've used here. I can use follow up with constituent. This is that 72-hour box. If I decide that I want to follow up for additional customer service, I can. I can identify whether this is a first call resolution. Let's say that it was. They called me. I was able to resolve it right away. There is not a new case comment, and if I did have a work order that was required in order to address the issue, I could put in some work order notes and identify whether one's required. Again, that's typically for internal CDOT use, but if you have a work order system, I'm sure you can utilize that as well. And after that, all we do is click submit, and now we have a case that is closed. So I can tell that my case status is now closed. And so when I go back to my Cases tab and I look at my all open cases, I no longer have that case, but I can find it in my closed cases because here it is, debris on Highway 36 with a status of closed. Okay, so now you know how to find your cases in your list view and by using the search box. You know how to create new cases. You know how to make changes to cases by choosing edit and or by using the little double clicking on the field where the pencil is. And then you know how to close cases. So thank you for participating in this second session, learning how to manage cases. And we'll be back next time teaching you how to add case comments and answer the customers. Thank you.